All right, what up, good people? It is Kashya. Welcome to Now Naked and Unashamed. Tonight, I wanted to come and talk about how the weight of image interrupts elevation. How the weight of image interrupts elevation. Um, Hopefully, y'all have had a great day. It is Thursday, May the 21st. Where I'm is. But I was doing the dishes earlier, and this topic came to me. And what also came to me along with the topic was just realizing that when we hold on too tightly to whatever image we have established for ourselves, that sometimes it can become a burden or a weight. And I was doing some other Bible study throughout the day. It's kind of late now, but I was doing other Bible study throughout the day. And um, it was just kind of interesting how God aligned everything. But I don't know what type of work you do. I know sometimes they have things like paperweights or different stuff like that, right? And you put the paperweight on it and it holds the paper down, right? But sometimes the thing that prevents us from elevating is our image, because it has become a weight that we hold on to so tightly that we're not able to move outside of that image, right? And for me, I'm still being stalked. Okay. I try not to say it like that because I'm hoping one day that the people will get some sense and they'll find something else to do besides stalk me, right? That has not been the case so far. And maybe I don't know if it'll ever be the case. But what I do know is that I've been stalked. And being stalked, one of the first things that they attacked concerning me was my image, right? They were applying heavy pressure on how other people would view or see me, right? They put a lot of time, a lot of energy, and they're still putting a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort into attacking my image, wanting people to view me in a certain light or a certain manner, wanting me to not be confident within myself, wanting me to feel some type of way because society has decided that there should be certain images that people should strive to live up to, right? I don't I don't do that. Um, I'm just not that person. Like, I realize that my image is established in my relationship or my connection to Christ, and regardless of the days or the time that I may uh, be on the wrong path, right, or where I may be um, distracted with whatever, right, my image is still in Christ. Does that mean I will have some tweaking to do? Yes, but ultimately my image is in Christ, right? And I know my image is not the thing that is going to um, prevent me from being my true self. At least for me, it's not, right? But society has made it to where image is a big thing. And I get that. I'm not saying it's not important to keep up or maintain your image or um, feel proud of who you are, right? It's who you have chosen to be or whatever the case may be, right? I'm not saying don't have pride in that or um, feel accomplished if you do something and you know that that will allow people to look at you a certain way or whatever the case may be. But for me and how I've dealt with maintaining um, a sound mind throughout all of the craziness that I've had to go through, right? Started off in my hometown. It's since then exploded into all different areas of life, right? Everywhere I go, there's somebody saying something, doing something because they have this access to my life, right? Somebody in the computer. It's crazy that we have these sinners, but that's nonetheless. But somebody with a computer and the wrong type of access or the wrong type of knowledge, right? They used it for wickedness, but whatever. It's made me stronger. It's made me wiser, and it's made me realize that because I have the ability to detach from my image or detach from the image that society says that I should uphold or I should be concerned about, right? It has allowed me the freedom to actually be present in the light that God has given me, right? It has allowed me the freedom to not feel boxed in or caged in, even when people are actively trying to put me in a box or a cage, right? And so, one of the things I love about um, detachment, or that I love about understanding and understanding that image can sometimes be in the way, is realizing that I don't have to glue myself to it to the point of where I feel stuck or I feel trapped or I feel like I can't be freed from whatever image that people have become accustomed to when it comes to me or who I am, right? And so, because I was able to detach from what society says I should be focused on or worried about when it comes to my image, that has been something that has allowed me to rise, to not get stuck on the different attacks and traps that the enemy has sent my way, right? Oftentimes, when you're in the world, your image is always the thing that they want you to focus on, right? You need to appear a certain way, you need to look a certain way, you need to have this, that, this, and all these other things, right? But when we don't really sit down and process why these things are even important or why we should be striving for them or anything like that, we don't understand the weight of it until we get to this breaking point, and then we realize that we're stuck or we feel heavy because our image is the weight that we've been carrying, right? And so, for anybody that's trying to get to the point where you're naked and unashamed, I always kind of think about Adam and Eve in the garden when I think about image, because there's only two options. When you read the word, there's only two options. Even when there are other stories or parables in the Bible and it talks about two options when it comes to marriage or whatever the case may be, right? Um, One's going to be good and one's going to be bad. When we think about Adam and Eve in the garden, they were free or in bliss when they were not worried about trying to pursue all of this extra knowledge, right? Their curiosity, Eve's curiosity, led her to being with this snake, listening to him, allowing him to get in her ear. And because of her curiosity, that opened up a door for her to be all on the wrong path, right? And so, because of that, it caused them to then become knowledgeable of their image prior to biting the apple or the fruit or whatever it was that they bit in the garden, right? I know some people with different knowledge say different things, but nonetheless, prior to them having knowledge from the tree of knowledge, right? They were not aware that they were even naked. Their image was not something that they were concerned about because they had everything that they needed in the garden that God had provided. And so they were able to live blissfully in marriage, in love, with everything that they had because image was not a factor. The image was not a factor because they were too busy living their life. They were too busy enjoying each other's company. Eve was somewhere with the trees doing too much, but it's always one, right? It's always one. Somebody is always just doing too much. But nonetheless, that's why you can't be caught up in your image, right? Had Eve never been curious and desired this knowledge, right? Never allowed Satan to get in her ear and twist what God had already told her spouse, her headship, right? Her covering, right? The man that was providing for her, protecting her. She had everything she needed, right? Came from his rib, all of that stuff, okay? She didn't need nothing. But what caused them to then miss out on elevating or maintaining the promise that God had given them originally outside of them eating from the tree of knowledge was the fact that they realized, that they didn't realize the freedom that they had not being worried about image. But only when they obtained all of this different knowledge did they inherit the weight of being concerned about their image, right? Because when they realized that they were naked, they ran to cover themselves up, right? They realized that God could see them, even though I'm sure God was already talking to them in the garden, but nonetheless, they had knowledge that God saw them in their nakedness. And because God saw them in their nakedness or in their sin because of them eating from the tree of knowledge, then that brought on shame, right? And that's what happens when you think about the weight of your image. When you have a certain image that you're worried about upholding, it causes you to have shame when you can't meet the standards of whatever image that you have set for yourself, right? And so that makes it harder sometimes for you to elevate because you're so focused on, well, this has been the standard of this image. I have to maintain this image. And then when you're so focused on staying in this one area, it doesn't allow you to elevate to a different area, even if it was you trying to change your image, right? And I think another part of that, especially when I think about the freedom that you have being naked and unashamed, is when you're not pressed to please people, you don't care about your image as much, right? You can decide that maybe today you wanted to be a frog and tomorrow you want to be a bee and the next day you want to be a tree. I don't know why those three came up, but you could decide to do that and not be concerned about what somebody else is going to say. So in order for you to be able to elevate or to rise or to do something different, right? Even if it's something that nobody else has done before, even if it's something that nobody understands, even if it's something that people are like, oh, this is not going to work, you can't do XYZ, or it's something that causes people who know of you or knew you or whatever the case to look at you differently. When you don't carry the weight of being concerned about how you look to other people, you'll be able to rise and reach the different levels or pass the different tests that God gives you and not have any shame when it comes to you being naked and open about it. So sometimes in order to get light, in order to elevate, in order to be lifted up, you have to release the weight of your image. That's all I got for right now. But I love y'all later. Have a great day.